Hello, welcome to Black Friday with Brittany Kennedy. Today is August 27th, 2020, and I'm really excited that the month is coming to a close, and I think that's actually just because I want to get to the full moon again so that I can recharge my crystals. But I hope you guys are staying safe. The pandemic is still going on. I know schools have opened back up and some people are doing online, some people have the option of actually being in school. I don't know, but I feel like that just opens up a lot of possibilities for COVID to have another huge wave. So I hope everybody is staying safe, using hand sanitizer, wearing your mask, staying away from people, 6 feet distancing or whatever. Just stay safe, guys. For those of you guys that are new to Black Friday with Brittany Kennedy, this is a space where I like to talk about socio-economic issues in the Black community that are too taboo to talk about. I like to talk about them. My thought process is that I will help create awareness, and that awareness will help us create solutions to better our community. That's what I think. I think it might be working, and it's working, I think. Black businesses. That is what I want to talk about first. Black-owned businesses. And for this week, I am featuring, I looked up toy companies because I have a son, and I was thinking to myself, I wonder what Black-owned toy companies are out there. And I will put the link below in the drop-down box in the description box so you can just check it out. But some pretty awesome things. We've got Kamiko handmade doll. I have a little boy, but when I have a little girl, this is adorable. Can you see that? No, because the lighting. Sorry, I tried. I thought I'd give it a shot. Anywho, Kamiko handmade doll, wooden tabletop color puzzle, which is pretty cool looking. Lug guitar, fairy tale story printable paper puppet theater. Another doll, limited edition Imani doll. I really like this one. I think I'm going to get my son this. Personalized superhero puzzle. So you can get them personalized onto the puzzle. That's pretty awesome, I think. Block Party Beach Bats. Oh my god, I haven't played that in forever. But these look super cool. Leela handmade doll. These dolls are pretty awesome, I must say. Splash Park puzzle. That's interesting. And then more paper dolls. They look like little bookmarks. I'm not sure if they are or not. Cube Bot. This looks really cool. Looks like it would be really good for child development. African American doll. Color My Fro, a natural hair coloring book. That's pretty awesome. 50-piece wooden block set. I may have to give that one too. Pirate paper doll and puppet. Meisha doll. Kids activity and coloring book. By Zibiozi. Okay. Stegosaurus 3D puzzle. Oh, this looks mad cool. By Kiddo. Harper Iman. Marlowe handmade doll. The Colorful Adventures of Cody and Jay, a coloring and activity book by the Black Toy Store. Step Stitches, Cinnamon Annie doll. Anywho, I'll put that link below, so if you've got kids, if you have nieces, nephews, all that kind of jazz, we should be looking at toys that support the Black community, that look like us, by us. Just my thought. Also, I do tarot readings. I will put the link to that below. You can get a hold of me through there. You can message me, and I will do a reading for you. Last week I posted a video called I challenge every Black person to choose one thing in the Black community that we want to improve. And I didn't get a very big response on that video, and I was kind of surprised. But I guess I shouldn't have really been surprised, because I think it's pretty traditional for us in the Black community, us melanin people, to really gravitate towards things that are problems. And yet, when it's time to create solutions, I find that a lot of the responses I get from you guys sometimes tend to fall a little bit flat. So, not super surprised that that it wasn't my, most viewed video. Actually, it was my least viewed video, which is ironic. Maybe it's the title. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's the title. I have no idea. I cannot think of any other reason as to why we would not engage regarding what we can do to better our community. But, numbers show it is my least watched video. Whatever. But the responses that I did get, which quite a few of you actually did engage in the commentary on Facebook, and mentorship is one of the things that we should definitely implement more in the Black community. Black love was one of the things. Mindsets, parenting. I thought that was a really, really big one. I thought mentorship, Black love, and parenting were on my top. Self-love is huge, which kind of ties in today's topic a little bit, and self-respect. So I think if we treat each other the way that we want to be treated, that would probably help uplift the vibration in our community. I think that's just not our community. I think that's worldwide. But anywho, this week I want to talk about mental health, because I think that mental health is actually one of those things that probably prevents us from more growth than we realize. Mental health doesn't necessarily mean you have a mental illness. Mental health is just the way that you take care of your mental health, the way that you take care of your mind, your body, your spirit. All things tied into that is your mental health. I think that a lot of the reasons why we have issues when it comes to Black love, loving each other, respecting ourselves, I think a lot of these things are rooted in oftentimes childhood trauma that we never resolved. Or it doesn't have to be childhood trauma, but oftentimes it is, because that's where our emotional development came from. But just overall, we don't really like to tackle these issues. In the Black community, it is very taboo to go to a psychologist. It is very taboo to go to a therapist. A lot of people don't want to do it. Men certainly don't want to do it. I think a lot of times we suffer in silence, or we feel like our spirituality is supposed to just fix it. And spirituality is a huge component to your mental health. So you should not negate that. However, if you are working on your spirituality, but you don't have a good tribe around you to talk about the issues that you're going through with, if you don't have a good person to sound ideas off of, or your thoughts or your feelings, then a therapist could be very helpful. Doesn't mean you're crazy, just means you need somebody to talk to. And if you're lucky, your insurance pays for it. It helps manage things. It's a good idea to bounce things off of somebody. It doesn't have to be a therapist. But anywho, mental health is an area that I feel like we need to tap into more. I think we need to pay attention more to the mental health of our youth, our children, the stressors that they go through. I think we need to stop telling our kids and telling ourselves to just tough it up and deal with it. I don't think that's a healthy way to go about in life. And I think we have a history from slavery, from just handling it, right? Just going through the motions, these are my problems, I take them on, blah, blah, blah. Well, you really weren't designed to take all the problems on by yourself. That's kind of why, you have a partner, a life partner, a spouse. It's why you have family. You're not designed to just carry that load all by yourself. And if that load is becoming unmanageable for you, you need to find ways to make it more manageable. And sometimes it's talking about your mental health, addressing your mental health. Even if you don't go to a therapist or something like that, it could be about making sure you're getting enough physical exercise. People who do not get physical exercise have a higher stress rate than others because they have no way to release the stress. Those that don't, meditation is a great way to ground yourself. Just sitting out in nature is a great way to ground yourself. There's a lot of different things that you can do. Self-love, self-care, there's a lot of things that we do not make time for that I think, especially during these times where there's a pandemic, we've kind of been forced to do nothing. Stop working so much, stop moving so much, stop going out so much. And really all you have left is to just focus on the self. And I think that was kind of Mother Nature's way of getting our attention and getting us to slow down and focus more on the things that are most important, i.e. what is in your household, i.e. meaning you really can't go outdoors because there's a pandemic and you shouldn't go out there. And so focusing on the house, the inside, the body, the mind, the spirit. So I'm just going to get into this article here. It is a little bit lengthy, so I'm going to try to kind of breeze through it as much as possible. Just for some statistics, I'm looking at columbiapsychiatry.org. The article is titled Addressing Mental Health in the Black Community. Roughly 37 million people identify themselves as Black or African American in the United States, from trailblazing pioneers like George Washington Carver and Dorothy Height to modern-day heroes like Anita Hill and Neil deGrasse Tyson. The Black community has made enormous contributions to the ongoing fight for social, racial, and economic justice. Despite these efforts, true social justice among the Black community will remain incomplete until mental health disparities among this group are addressed. I just want to repeat that. Despite these efforts, true social justice among the Black community will remain incomplete until mental health disparities among this group are addressed. Mental health is an essential part of overall physical health and satisfaction. The Black community suffers from an increased rate of mental health concerns, including anxiety and depression. The increased incidence of psychological difficulties in the Black community is related to the lack of access to appropriate and culturally responsive mental health care, prejudice and racism inherent in the daily environment of Black individuals, and historical trauma enacted on the Black community by the medical field. Moreover, given that the Black community exists at the intersection of racism, classism, and health inequity, their mental health needs are often exasperated and mostly unfulfilled. Issues related to economic insecurity and the associated experiences, such as violence and criminal injustice, further serve to compound the mental health disparities in the Black population. Now, research suggests that the adult Black community is 20% more likely to experience serious mental health problems such as major depressive disorder or generalized anxiety disorder. Additionally, Black emerging adults ages 18 to 25 also experience higher rates of mental health problems and lower rates of mental health service utilization compared to white emerging adults and older Black adults. These sobering statistics suggest that despite efforts to reduce disparities among race and class in the U.S., inequalities are increasing. However, further research is required to clarify these findings and to understand the factors associated with lower utilization of mental health care among the Black community. Lack of trust in the medical system due to historical abuses of Black people in the guise of healthcare, less access to adequate health insurance, culturally responsive mental health providers, financial burden, and past history with discrimination in the mental health system. Also, a fear that these experiences will be repeated is also suggested by research as factors in explaining lower utilization of mental health care among the Black community. So, basically, white people are going to the doctor more than Black people. That's really what it boils down to. That's it. Whether or not you don't have health insurance, whether or not it's part of, the stigma or fear of going to a healthcare provider regarding your mental health state, whatever the issue, whatever the reason, basically, we are not getting the care that we need and deserve at the same rate as white people. And that needs to change. Especially if we want to see the progress in our community that we would like to see, because we have to start with the self. And if we don't build up the self, we're not going to help build up our community. It's just not possible. So now it's talking about systematic barriers. It is clear that systematic barriers disproportionately impact mental health in the Black community. Although the Black community roughly constitutes 12% of the United States population, they are overrepresented in high-risk populations, a group that is often impacted by specific negative occurrences. For example, the Black community comprises approximately 40% of the homeless population, 50% of the prison population, and 45% of children in the foster care system. Research shows that exposure to violence, incarceration, and involvement in the foster care system can increase the chances of developing a mental illness. Consequently, the Black community in particular is at significantly increased risk of developing a mental health issue due to historical, economic, social, political influences that systematically expose the Black community to factors known to be damaging to the psychological and physical health. So, in short, we have the highest prison rate, we have almost the most, well, actually, 45% of our children are in the foster care system, so, or not 45% of our children, but 45% of those in foster care make up Black children. And 40% of the homeless population is Black. With these numbers, that makes us at a very, very high rate when it comes to issues with mental illness. We are in a crutch kind of situation, so to speak. And it doesn't necessarily have to develop into a mental illness, but it might if you don't get the mental health that you need, the mental health assistance that you need prior to. I really don't want to keep reading all of this stuff because it really is a lot, but I really did want to at least get the statistics out so you had a general idea of what the numbers look like and how much our community is being affected. But I do want to talk about this part here. So, despite progress in recent years, there is still a significant stigma associated with mental health concerns. In the Black community, there is often difficulty acknowledging psychological difficulties, but useful strategies including religious coping and methods such as pastoral guidance and prayer often are the most preferred coping mechanism. Destigmatizing mental health can be achieved by helping people, especially in the Black community, to understand that mental health is an essential part of well-being, just like a healthy diet, sleep, and exercise. These ideas often lead people to believe that a mental health condition is a personal weakness due to negative stereotypes of instability and attitudes of rejection. Because of this lack of information about mental health issues in the Black community, it is not always clear when one may need it or where to find help. There is also a need for improved cultural awareness and corresponding responsiveness in the healthcare and mental health workforce. Research has found that the lack of cultural responsiveness from the therapist, cultural mistrust, and potential negative views from the therapist associated with stigma impact the provision of mental health services in the Black community. Locally, with the rise of social media and improved awareness related to mental health, the development of and funding for culturally responsive mental health treatment are increasing. So basically what they're saying is that there weren't enough doctors or people in the mental health arena, employees, who were culturally sensitive to our needs. And that can be very challenging. That's why it's important to kind of seek care from an individual who looks like you, because a person who looks like you is going to be more aware of what you're going through. And if you don't do that, if you don't have a Black doctor, if you don't have a Black therapist, then you need to, at the very least, find somebody who is highly, highly intuitive and aware of the pressures that you are facing as a Black person. If you do not have that, you are disadvantaging yourself. Also, when it comes to spirituality, religious beliefs, it is always very wise to find a therapist or seek counsel from an individual who has those ideas either in mind because they believe that and or at least respect that. If not, you run the risk of some very challenging things in the mental health department, right? Because it's a real thing for people to diagnose. That's kind of what their job is. Find the problem, diagnose. If there's not a diagnosis, treat the issue, whatever. You need to be very aware and be able to trust who you are talking to about whatever it is. Because while I promote mental health awareness, I do not agree with all of the ways of a psychologist. Their job is to diagnose, ideally, and to help treat. And sometimes, if for those that are spiritual, that can kind of clash from time to time. So that's why I'm saying it's very important that you find somebody that has a like mind and or belief system. But I do encourage you, if you are having a hard time managing your mental health, to get help in a way that is comfortable for you. Whether or not it's through a friend, whether or not it's through a pastor, whether or not it is an actual therapist, do something. Be proactive about balancing that, because just like anything, if you have a broken leg and you try to go run a marathon, you're not going to get very far before you hurt yourself worse. So, if you're having a hard time managing whatever it is, stress, everybody has this. It's all about management. Some people have stronger thresholds than others. Some people have coping mechanisms that they've established since they were, that are just natural to them. So for me, I was a runner. Most of us are very highly athletic. We do something. And so a lot of these things are actually coping mechanisms. At the same time, it's very important to pay attention to where you are at, check in with your own spirit, check in with your own mind, see if you're stressed out, and do whatever you can to get the help that you need. I work very closely with NAMI. NAMI is the National Alliance of Mental Illness. It's a very big organization when it comes to mental health awareness, and they are absolutely phenomenal. They have groups, they have services all throughout the United States, and you can pretty much just check in with NAMI via their website, and you can find a lot of different resources that help tailor. I highly recommend them. Like I said, I work very closely with them. I am the executive director of a nonprofit organization called Artist University, and so they are one of our major partners. We do a lot of work with them. So, in short, get whatever help that you might need. It's very important. I think a lot of us are having a hard time as adults because a lot of things from our childhood we haven't resonated with, we haven't healed from. And when you don't heal from something, it kind of just takes somebody poking at it or doing something to you to just kind of bleed all over the place. And I think that we do ourselves a very great disservice by pushing this down and not talking about this. I think many of us end up being adults just thinking like, well, this is how I've always been and I don't have a problem and I'm good. And you may not have a problem in the essence of like, you're crazy, but you might have, I don't know, daddy issues. You might have resentment towards women because of some things that you saw a woman do as a kid, or like there's all different kinds of things that can happen that mold the way that we end up responding to situations as an adult. And a lot of times those are rooted in our childhood because, like I said before, that is where we had our emotional development. And so if we don't tackle some of those issues from childhood, oftentimes we never tackle the way that we respond to situations. So in order to grow, you gotta kind of fix the things. And sometimes I think we kind of just keep going and we don't heal our little boy or little girl inside of us. And until we do that, we're kind of like adults, we're doing it. We're in these grown bodies and we're making it happen and we're making money and we're striving and succeeding and doing a lot of different things. But sometimes we may have that same reoccurring problem of like, man, I can just not, I don't seem to be able to have a healthy relationship, or I get into a lot of arguments, or I can't manage my anger. I just always want to punch somebody in the face. Or like there could be just something that if we address it, we could probably be able to grow a lot easier. So that's my little tip for today. In terms of mental health, I think it's a horrible, horrible stigma in the Black community where we don't like to talk about it. We don't want to see a therapist. We don't want to address it. We just kind of want to keep going. Maybe throw back, whatever your favorite liquor is. Maybe smoke a little, whatever your favorite smoke is. And we just keep going. And maybe if we don't focus on the things that make us not focus on the problem and actually look at the problem, we might be able to find healing. I don't know. So that's my 2 cents. I think it's worth more than 2 cents, but that's my 2 cents for the day. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please like, share, subscribe. I appreciate you. Ciao.